Now, the next thing I'd like to do is set up some quotes on each one of the pages from famous people. And of course, we want to set up a special style for those quotes. If you go out to your working files, in the Chapter 5 folder, I've got a file called quotes.txt. And that's just some quotes by some famous people, and they made them about San Francisco. So I'm going to select the first one here from Oscar Wilde, and I'll just copy that. And I'll move over into my HTML document, and what I wanted to do was add a space for this down below the main section content above the footer. First, to signal that this content is not part of the main content of the page, I'm going to use an aside tag. And of course, I'll set up a close aside. I'll paste my quote right in there. And to make it stand out just a little bit more, I'm going to add a set of block quote tags around it. And of course, I need to add an end block quote tag as well. Now, I wanted to set up a special style for this, so let's save our changes to the HTML file, and let's go back over to our CSS document. And here right at the bottom, let's just add a new selector for the block quote tag, and we'll add in a rule set for that. For this tag, the first thing I'd like to do is make sure I set the text size. So we'll set the font size to a little bit bigger than our normal paragraph text at 16 pixels. Then I want to align the text in the center of the page. So I'll use the text align property, and we'll set that to center. And finally, I'd like the text to be italicized. So for that, I use the font style property and set it to italic. Now let's save our changes here, and we can go back to our website and see what the combination of our HTML and CSS gets us. I'll refresh the page, and we can see that something got added to the bottom. Down here, we can see that my quote is nicely centered up and italicized. And the text size is set to be a little bit bigger than our normal paragraph text. Now, there's a couple of other things that I wanted to stylize on the page. One is I wanted to stylize the copyright that we have down here at the bottom. And generally, we'll just make that tiny text. The other thing is I'd like to create a style that I can use to pop out some words or phrases inside of the content. So let's go set both of those back up. I'll go right over to the CSS tag. And down here at the bottom, let's create two new class styles. Now remember, class styles all start with a period or a dot, so I'll type that first, and then we'll type the names. I'm going to make one a copyright class, and I'll set up the brackets for that. And then down below that, I'll add another class that I'll call popout, and brackets for that too. For our copyright style, I'd like the text small and centered. So let's go set those up. That'll use a font size property, and I'll set that to something really tiny like 9 pixels. And I'll use my text align property, and we'll set that to center. For our pop out, I'd like a little bigger and bolder text. So we'll set the styles using font size again. This time I'll set it to 16 pixels, a little bit bigger than the paragraph text. And then I'll use the font weight property, and we'll set that to bold. Looks like I've already closed out that one, so I'll just save my changes. And let's go back to our HTML page now and see if we can use these two new classes. First of all, let's look at the copyright one. If I look down at the bottom of my page, I've only got the copyright blocked by the footer tag. And I might put some other things in the footer. So let's set up a tag that we can use to add the class. It makes sense here to just use a normal paragraph tag, so I'll add that. And of course, we want to add our class setting in there. The name of it was copyright. And I'll put a closed p tag at the end. Now for the other one, I just want to pick out some important words and pop them out. So I'm going to pick out the words top tourist destinations in the world. And as you can see, we don't have any tags around it right now, so this is a good place to use the span tag. I'll first add a span tag, then we'll add in our class designation. In this case, I'm going to use the popout class. And of course, we'll close up that tag at the end of the words. /span, and I'll save my changes. And we can go out to our document and refresh the page. And already I can see tiny centered text for my copyright at the bottom, And you can see that the words top tourist destinations in the world have indeed been popped out from the paragraph. What's nice about these styles is we can always come back and add rules or change any setting we want to, without necessarily touching the HTML code. Now I have one more thing that I'd like to set up for styles for my site, and that is a little rollover for the links. Right now they just look like normal blue links and we're not getting any rollover, so let's set that up really quickly. I'll go back to my CSS document, and down here at the bottom I'm going to set up an anchor tag using the hover pseudo selector. That's A:, and then hover. We'll add braces for the rules, and we'll add in the style rules. Now first I just wanted to change the color to the orange color, and we can get that up at the top. So I'll start off my tag. It's going to be a colored property, and we'll go back up to the comments that we made earlier and grab the code for that orange. I'll copy and paste that down into my settings, and of course finish it off with a semicolon. And secondly, I'd actually like on rollover for that underline to disappear so we don't have a big orange underline popping up there. We can control that with the text decoration property, and that's text-decoration. An underline is a decoration, but what I can do here is I can set the property to none, and that will effectively remove any underline if there was one being put there by the link. Let's save that change, and we'll go and take a look at how our page looks. I don't see any change right away, but when I roll over one of our links, you can see now I'm getting an orange color and the underline has been removed. And that works for all of our links so far, including the ones up in our nav menu here at the top. Now to finish off our lab, all we need to do is bring our style over to the other pages in our site. You can see by the font itself right here that we haven't got those roped in yet. So let's go back over to our working files, and I'll walk through the changes with the cable cars pages with you. I'll start by opening it up in my text application here, and we can grab some elements from our index page that we made earlier. For instance, the first thing we need is the link to the CSS file. Our index and our cable car pages are both in the same folder, so the link's going to be exactly the same. I'll just copy that, and I'll paste it right into the head tag for our cable cars page. And then I can also go back and go down to the footer and grab all the changes we made there. I'd like to have this aside on every page, so I'm going to select from the aside all the way down to the bottom HTML closing tag. I'll copy all of that, and we'll go back over to our cable cars document. And there at the bottom, I'll just go and replace everything below the close section tag. I do want to change the quotes on each page, so I'll just go back over to my quotes text file. We'll grab the second quote here, copy that, and back in my cable cars page, I can just replace the quote and leave the rest of the tags there. So as you can see, we need to fix the link tag at the top and the sections at the bottom. And of course, we're free to add that pop-out tag since the class is included in our CSS file. All we need to do is add span tags at any location on the page. Now, as usual, I've skipped ahead to the end and I've finished up my files. So when you finish up your practice, your site should look something like this. Not only should the cable cars page be reflecting all the styles that we set up, but if I click through the rest of the pages here, Chinatown, Fisherman's Wharf, and Pier 39, they're all using the same basic text styles, and you can see on the bottom they've all got a nicely centered quote and a nice small centered copyright notice. Now there's lots more to learn about CSS, but in the next chapter we're going to be talking about tables, and then we'll come back to CSS and talk about layouts in the chapter after that.